So, hi. You probably figured out since I made a video about it wasn't even my rat, but it died. And I made a video about it. So you had to know that you were going to see a video about my sister at some point. And here it is. Now, I'm not going to get into all the other things and other people in her life. I'm not going to talk about things I don't have any authority over or any insight into. No. This is just going to be about me and my sister. I have a lot to draw from. So I thought I'd get things started with a song, as you noticed at the beginning. When someone dies, people tend to gravitate towards a certain song. People need to hear a certain song. There's always that certain song. So I tried to come up with one here. There was one that immediately came to mind. It was a no-brainer, really. But it just didn't seem appropriate. So I racked my brain trying to figure out some other song to use, any song. I tried this and that and the other, but my mind just kept coming back to this same certain song. And that song, my friends, is Maniac from the Flashdance soundtrack. I didn't know how it was going to go over. You know, this being my one particular song, my one chance to honor my sister. And it's Maniac. See, I didn't know quite how people were going to take that. Is poor taste? I wasn't sure. Anyone who knows my sister can attest to her manic energy, but she's not a maniac. And you know, the song isn't even about a maniac. The song is about someone who's a maniac on the floor.
And she's dancing like she's never danced before. She's a maniac, maniac on the floor. And she's dancing like she's never danced before.
My sister often did dance like she'd never danced before, and it was a sight to behold. Flashdance factors big in my memories of Laura. Not so much the movie. I mean, that was a little bit too racy for my sister, at least at the time. But that soundtrack. There were others. Grease, Saturday Night Fever, Olivia Newton-John's greatest hits. But the one that she kept coming back to time and again was that Flashdance record. And oh, how we danced to it. I can still see her. She looked quite goofy, you know. But she played right along with my insistence on choreography and dramatic sequences. This was the age of MTV, after all. And there was no messing around. My cousins can attest to this side of me. But what they didn't really know was that Laura was responsible for bringing out that side of me. Without going into too much detail, my house became a kind of a revolving door of sorts for a time. One sister would leave, another would arrive. The first time my sister Leah left home, I was pretty sad and withdrawn over it. And then in walked Laura, or rather in bounced Laura, full of her life and energy, and noise and mischief. And she danced with me. She picked me up out of my slump, and she encouraged me to be happy. My sisters, they came in and out of my life, and that became our thing, me and Laura. Our consistency in all of this inconsistency. Dancing.
Just a steel town girl on a Saturday night, looking for the fight of her life. In the real time world, no one sees her at all. They all say she's crazy.
It wasn't just dancing, though. Laura had this really offbeat sense of humor and this really loud and frequent laugh that would bounce off every wall in the room. And she had this tendency to scribble really bad teenage girl poetry in these little notebooks and writing pads that she'd hide in her dresser. Now, I wasn't in there, you know, for anything to do with my private prancing princess time. Now, that's a story for never. But Laura's fashion sense was never anything that I ascribed to. No, I was in there solely looking for all these whatever she was scribbling all the time. Now, I don't know if she ever knew that I was reading her little private moments, but it gave me an insight into her from back then that I don't think anyone else had. And I think that's special, even if I was just being a nosy little brother. Now, here's something I think she did know. Through, all of our sharing memories over the years and talking back and forth, I think she must have known that she had some influence on these little videos that I do. And she did. Now, the dancing is an obvious example, but there were also other things like the turkey gobble. If you've been around long enough, I'm pretty sure that you'd remember the turkey gobble, that little Thanksgiving turkey gobble I did. Well, I stole that from my sister. That's her turkey gobble. It sounds remarkably similar to her laugh. But beyond the dancing and the goofy gobble, the biggest influence my sister had on these videos was helping nurture in me the ability to be myself, the confidence to know who I am, and to put that out into the world and know that it's good enough. It was good enough for her. It was more than good enough for her. She watched my videos. She followed along with them, and she showed them to her sons, and she encouraged them to watch their wacky uncle. I hope she knows how she helped in making that, how her encouragement that she gave to me over the years, that she always reminded me of who I am and what I'm capable of. And I just hope she knows. I mean, maybe if I, let a few people in on that, maybe they'd like me too. She certainly did, from day one. This is a picture of me and my sister on her first communion. She was Catholic, and I wasn't. Don't ask. Laura had a very unique and rather eccentric personality. This could be a bit difficult to take for some, and sometimes to understand. She didn't fit or mix very well in many places, though she tried desperately to. She always had her arms wide open for anyone that was willing to take a chance on her. This didn't always work out to her advantage, though that never changed her disposition. Laura had a pet ferret when she was a kid, and she had to be insistently told under no circumstances could she bring a tiger cub home. She transferred this need to care for the world's animals into breeding and raising many dogs throughout her adult life. I'm not an expert on these years. I'm not an expert on many things, Laura, after she got married. This is for several reasons, and I'll admit that some of it's on me. But for whatever reason, I don't really know my sister as an adult. These are the last pictures I have of my sister. This is us dancing, of course. On her wedding day. On her brother Jason's wedding day. Holding her new son Adam. We lost touch over the years. We rekindled our relationship for a time over the phone. The last time I saw my sister in person was in 2004. There's many reasons for that. But when Facebook came along, Laura came back into my life. It was slow and tentative at first, but eventually it blossomed into something new altogether. We became like pen pals. It was very similar to a friendship I have with Mary, who is a woman I've never met who lives in Nova Scotia. I worked with Mary remotely, of course, for several years, and over time we became web friends. And now, all these years later, she's one of my closest friends. I felt much the same way about Laura. We didn't see each other. It didn't seem to matter. She had her life, I had mine. I always knew that she wanted more. And I wanted to. I meant to. I always thought there was more time. There wasn't. I don't really feel guilty because I know that we were working our way back to each other slowly after all these years. There were these little seedlings that were being planted, just waiting to sprout. She'd become web friends with my partner a few years back, and they had been slowly warming up to each other. She was just mentioned at Christmas dinner for the first time in ages, and it didn't even cause any discord. I've been getting to know her son Kenny over the past year. Hi, Kenny. We even talked about getting together and meeting sometime. She said that she'd bring him down here, but really, I know that I probably would have gone up to Stratford to see them. I thought maybe when the weather cleared up in the spring. I thought we had more time. It would have been the first time I'd see my sister in almost 14 years. But no, I'm not going to get that chance. I may not feel guilty, but I do have this deep, painful sadness and frustration that we came so very close, and yet now and forever we will always just be so very far. I've learned not to waste time. I've learned not to take the people in your life for granted. I've learned not to take their care for you for granted. I know it's a little late, but I'm getting to know my nephews now. My nephew Kyle, he showed me a video the other day of his mom. It was just a simple little thing of her playing a video game on a laptop. And I watched every second, and it broke my heart to know that I knew her, but I didn't know her. I mean, I knew my sister. I could just tell what she was thinking and feeling the whole time just by looking at her. I knew my sister. But I didn't know my sister as a 40-something-year-old woman. A mother of 6. And I never will. We had countless conversations on Facebook. It's almost better that way. I can go back to those conversations anytime I want. If I want to let my OCD run rampant, I can count how many times she said I love you in the last 11 years. I have that. But what I didn't have was her. And I never will again. And there's so many other people right now who are hurting who will also never have those chances again. So I hold to her love. I hold to her words. I hold to her kindness. I hold to her the fact that she loved me no matter who I was or what I did, and she built me up to be the kind of person who was deserving of that kind of love. I've learned that you can't waste time, or you could lose the only chances you have for anything. A job, an offer from the bank, a last visit with your sister. Good things don't always come to those who wait. If you wait too long, your whole life could pass you by, and you only get one kick at this can. Don't wait. Time isn't always on your side, and if you haven't noticed, it usually isn't. I've learned that there was never any good reason for me to never know my nephews. No reason. There's one thing you need to remember out of all of this. Despite everything or anything that may have happened, despite any distance or closeness, any missed opportunities or times of avoidance, I loved her then. I love her now. And when forever comes, I'll love her still. My videos this year are dedicated to her. Not in an obsessive kind of way, but anytime I dance or sing or act like a dork, I'll be thinking of her. And she really was a maniac on the floor. Goodbye, Laura. I love you so much. Goodbye.